I'm Aryeh Schwartz, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it is all about the W. We are back, baby. The All-Star/Olympic break is done, and the W is back in full swing. We have so many topics to discuss, so let's dive right in. Welcome back to the show. Very excited to be here. I'm joined this episode with Blake Silverman of Winsidr. Blake, how you doing? I assume you enjoyed the little bit of off time, but we're getting back into full swing. What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. We're here recording on the eve of the WNBA's return from break, so I'm excited to get back into it. I mean, honestly, I felt like it wasn't much of a break because it was filled with Olympics and everything like that, but I'm excited to get back into it. I feel like it's going to be a crazy, quick 5-week or whatever it is push to the playoffs, and we're really in the swing of it, so I'm excited.
Me too. I mean, I think we saw some moves before the break. There were some storyline buildups before the break that have just kind of maybe been put on the back burner because of the Olympic talk. Everyone paying attention to that. The USA goes for gold for their 8th straight, tying the men's team. Still in the hunt for, I believe it was like badminton. Some country had like a 10-year streak in badminton, and they kept pulling up that gold medal streak of 10 gold medals in a row, not a year. So, hey, we're 2 away. It'll be exciting to see, and it will just be in 2065 or something if they continue this streak that the USA women's basketball team would match the UConn women's basketball team for longest active or longest win streak of sports history at like 111 games, something like that. All right, let's talk about some of the big topics that we kind of put on pause. I keep mentioning this in the Slack. We just had a really great article come out for Patreon subscribers. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, I suggest you do it. It's a great way to benefit the writers and staff of Winsidr, but also you get some cool content. Some of the content, the idea behind this article that came out, we're kind of doing similar on this podcast, is what, kind of a pre-episode recap of what happened in the last episode of WNBA 2024 and kind of prepping you for this upcoming second half of the season or whatnot. I would say arguably the most enticing, the most intriguing, exciting move storyline going into the second half of this season, the home stretch, as it were, the Connecticut Sun trying to make that last push to become contenders that are, striking fear in opponents with their offense, not just their defense. They add Marina Mabrey to the team. I've talked about this a few times on the podcast. Adding a shooter a style of a shooter and just a skilled shooter that they have never had on the Connecticut Sun team. I'm curious for you, when the trade happened and in comparison to now, what was your thoughts of the move? And have your thoughts changed as you've had time to kind of sit and let it stew?
Yeah, I thought it was a super interesting move on both sides, but for Connecticut specifically, I mean, 3-point shooting was a glaring need that they had. They're 10th in the league in 3-point percentage at 31.4%. And after their hot start, when they won they were 13-1 or whatever it netted out to be, one of the things that the team was talking about is we know we still need to get better. Like, this isn't the end of the road for us. We're in the middle of this historic start where I forget the exact number, but pretty much every team who had a similar start to the Sun ended up in the WNBA finals. So this is something that everyone really knew the team needed to address. They go out and probably get the best player possible to help address that need. So I think it makes a ton of sense for Connecticut. I'm super interested to see what they look like coming out of the break. One of the quirky things for me was the first time we saw Marina Mabrey in a Connecticut Sun uniform was at All-Star Friday or whatever it was. So
that was wild.
Yeah, that was just pretty funny to me. But so excited to actually see her play a game for Connecticut. the one thing I'm thinking about, and a question I had for you, is what do you think their starting group looks like now? Like, do you input Mabry into the starting five in place of Ty Harris? What do you think?
Let me bring up the roster, so I don't want to insult anybody by disregarding. Also, I do want to give some props to the Connecticut Sun for also adding Veronica Burton to the roster. I think that's a slick move too, that maybe goes underrated, especially now that you have the addition of Marina. Here's my thing. I think you definitely have to add her to the starting lineup once she's acclimated with this roster. It's fine to bring her off the bench for the first couple of games, but you're not bringing a player of that caliber offense to come off the bench. This is not Rachel Banham. No shade throwing here. This is not someone who you're hoping can be a sixth woman off the bench. This is a person who, if I'm going to be blunt, Ty Harris had a great start to this season, fluttered out a little bit with that shooting percentage and just overall offensive production. We saw flashes of it like we have throughout her career. I think Ty Harris, similar to Natisha Heidemann, there was a lot of high hopes, and the team had to kind of bring them back a little bit. Not to say that she can't get there, but it might take a little bit more time. And now when you add in somebody who has more of a vet presence, I mean, this Connecticut Sun team is a vet presence team, right? They are, yeah, we have Ty Harris, we have Dejanay Carrington. Besides that, we're talking about, Bree Jones, who's been in the league for a while, Dewana Bonner, who is, one of the more experienced players in this league. And yeah, they have some youth, but then also Alyssa Thomas. So like the players they're truly running with are vets that they can trust. And I think part of it is possibly if we can move Ty Harris with the confidence that she's gained playing as a starter to the bench, that can be a huge addition to this team. But let's talk about what this starting five looks like if that happens. It's Marina Mabry, Dejanay Carrington, Dewana Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and Bree Jones. So that's a pretty fun team. That's a team that can attack and kick. That's a team that can shoot from a variety of places because Dewana Bonner can shoot, right? Marina can shoot. Alyssa Thomas is not going to be, a sharpshooter from three, and neither is Bree Jones. DJ Carrington can hit when needed, but like you have now two real shooting threats on this roster. Then you have the high intensity dog in Dejanay Carrington, and then you have the drive and attack in Alyssa Thomas, and then you have the beast in the paint in Bree Jones. So I just think that this team is much more well-rounded. Really, the question I have for you and in general that I don't think any of us can have an answer for is, like, I guess, what's the expectation for Marina in terms of an individual, right? Because we've seen her put up some pretty gaudy stats on the Dallas Wings when, they weren't the greatest of teams, to be blunt. We've seen her put up some really good stats on the on the Chicago Sky, who were not that good of a team, sorry to be blunt. What happens now when she's on a contender? What happens now when she's surrounded by greatness? Is this a player who will elevate her game and elevate the players around her, like be brought up by those players? Or is this a player that still could be a great benefit, but isn't going to be putting up, the impressive numbers? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think Marina's job when she starts out with Connecticut should really just be to get threes up. Like, Connecticut is 10th in the league in 3-pointers attempted. The percentage of points that they make from three is 11th. So I think like Marina is clearly one of the best shooters that they could acquire and one of the best shooters in the league. But I think even if there's a night where the shots aren't falling for her, I think she still needs to be putting up a ton of threes. I think she's averaging close to 7 attempts a game this season. And I just think that helps open the floor for everyone else. Like what you mentioned with AT and Bree Jones, like AT getting downhill is a scary sight. So I think Marina just needs to be out on the perimeter as that option for a kick out and really just help with the spacing that this team desperately needs. In turn, that should obviously result in more points and everything. But even if she there is an adjustment period. She's not shooting it to the best of her ability out of the gate, which she very well could. I think she still just has to keep getting those shots up, because I think that will help open everything up for Connecticut and help at least minimize like some of the perimeter offense problems that we saw with this team in the first half, or 24, 25 games, however many they've played so far.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And before we move on to our next topic, I just want to put this out there to keep people's eyes alert. The Connecticut Sun take on the Wings on Friday. Then on Sunday, the Dream, 2 road games. Back home against the Sparks on Tuesday. And then a little bit of a break until they take on the Sky in Connecticut on the next Friday. So those next 4 games are going to be interesting ones. Obviously, look, the Wings are record-wise a slouch, but coming back healthy and angry, we'll see what we see from the second half from them. A playoff push, I highly doubt that, but they are not a slouch, and they have some superstars. So that's not a game you can just sleep on. And then, okay, the Dream and the Sparks, you can expect wins in that, but they're not going to be, we're just going to roll over and let you destroy us. That Sky game is obviously going to be fireworks. So a lot of fun stuff to talk about with the Connecticut Sun moving forward. But keep your eyes on those games. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. Our next topic, Minnesota gets feedback. Now, I know you were watching the Olympics. I know we saw Cheryl Reeve use her in a variety of ways. At times, be that bridge to kind of gap the different lineups. At times, to be a Swiss Army knife. At times, to be that speed and size paired with Asia and Stewie. At times, didn't need her and didn't play her, and it didn't fit to have her style of play in that game. She obviously looked better, wasn't putting up gaudy stats because it's the Olympics and everyone's amazing. What is getting feedback to Minnesota healthy, assumably? What does that mean to the Minnesota Lynx, a team that, I keep saying this, when Phee was healthy, before she goes down for like 5-6 games before the break, was a top 3 team, was a true contender. Where you at?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Connecticut, Minnesota was 5-5 in their last 10 going into the break, and obviously Phee missed a good chunk of that. And Phee this year is averaging 20 and 10. Like, no one is doing that in the league other than those named Asia Wilson. So Phee is a superstar, so that you just can't put into words like what that means to bring back to your team. Like, it's not just that she's top of the league in steals, top 10 in blocks. So although Asia is doing it on like a different level than really anyone, like Phee, what she does a little bit of everything, and she really helps. She's like the driving force for that Minnesota team. So I think although they have a good team, they're pretty deep. Like, you just can't you just can't like replace what Phee brings. So putting her back into the lineup, I think, can really push them to get over whatever you want to call it, the little slump or slide going into the break. So I'm interested to see where they go, especially their first few games out of the gate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, because they were a team that took such a hot start. They were a team that, really for the first quarter of the season, I think we were all sitting here like, are my eyes playing tricks? Like, is this real? And not in like, again, not trying to throw shade here. I'm just, as we came into the season, we saw, some people were hating on this team. Most people, I think, had realistic expectations that they would be good. But I think they surpassed even the realistic expectations of what they could be, because they bought in, because their defense was so good and their offense was so good. There's been some sputters offensively, but they've continued to thrive forward. I'm curious to see, I'm going to put you on a hot seat right now. Make a prediction. Tell me what seed you think they are when the season ends.
Okay, let me pull up the standings really quick. Oh man, it's tough because I'm looking at them in Connecticut in a little bit of a similar lens. Like, Connecticut's had their superstar, but you add a player like Marina Mabry, and then you have the aces that are on everyone's tail in 5th place. So the Lynx are in 3rd right now, tied with the Seattle Storm at 17 and 8. I think with Phee back, I think they'll probably end up in the 4th seed when it's all said and done. And I'd have New York, Vegas, and Connecticut as the teams above them. But that said, like, them and Connecticut are very close to me to see what they both look like once we do see a couple games played after the break.
Unlike you, I have to go visit family in Minnesota in the next few weeks. So I'm going to say Minnesota finishes 3rd.
Okay.
Not trying to be thrown out of the house, insulting the hometown team, or, kicked out of the airport or anything like that. I think Minnesota's an interesting team. It's a lot of, Bridget Carleton got a little extra rest, a player who we thought was going to get a lot of run in these Olympics, with Canada failing pretty bad in the Olympics. She did not get as much run, so she gets a little bit more rest, a player that they really run deep in Minnesota. Alana Smith played crazy good. It's always this like give and take of, do you want to be played a lot in the Olympics and have a really good Olympic run? Or do you kind of want to, again, obviously they all want to win gold, but from the W perspective, the selfish W perspective, it's kind of like, do you want them to play that much, or would you prefer for them to relax just a little bit? Speaking of that topic, a perfect segue to the team that had like 15 players on the USA Olympic team, Las Vegas Aces. They continue their rise to the top. Definitely an interesting one. A team that I don't think the standings necessarily depict how the rest of the league feels about them, or where they necessarily stand in the league. Rachel and I have been doing these power rankings over on Bleacher Report live stream in the app. Shameless plug. You should check them out. And this was kind of an interesting one because we had them above Minnesota. We had them above Connecticut. We had them above some other teams that they had worse records than. And the reason behind it was the history and the any given day. We expect them. And also you're more afraid of them. And then finally, also, I think everyone's giving them their best game, right? The Aces are always getting best games. Let's talk Aces. Where do you think they are on their rise to the top? And then I have one hard-hitting question.
Well, I still think that Las Vegas is, when it's all said and done, when the season's over, like, I think they're the team to beat. I would never count them out of anything, or, like, honestly, they're my favorite at this point to win it all. I hope that wasn't your hard hitting question, but
it was not. But
okay,
now,
good.
No. I think. Wait. Are you saying that like if you were a betting man and you want to win, or if you're a betting man you want to get a return?
If I was a betting man and I wanted to win, honestly, I don't know what their odds are to win the title. I'd assume it's right up there with New York, and I mean, New York is going to be a tough team to beat too. Like you said, everyone is going to give Las Vegas their best game. I mean, the Aces are 8-2 since they got Chelsea Gray back. They go into the break on that tear. Like, I still think that they're the team to beat. Like you said, they had 4 players on Team USA, played a lot of minutes, went as far as they could, all won a gold medal. I mean, I think you could debate that, like, is Chelsea Gray fully healthy? I mean, I think she looked like some of the passes she was making in the Olympics. I mean, not to anyone's surprise, but were totally insane. So I just think you have to put this team at the top, if not very close to the top. And then we'll see where it goes. We'll see if they can continue this hot streak since Chelsea has come back. And even if like Chelsea Gray isn't putting up scoring numbers like she normally does, she just helps that lineup get back into their right spots. And I mean, she's really like, as cliche as it is, like the floor general, and makes everything happen and makes everyone around her better. And then, not to mention, obviously, they have the best player in the world in Asia Wilson. So it's going to be interesting. Their start makes where they are and how the rest of their season will go very, very unique, but they're still the team to beat for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would say that The hard-hitting question I have for you is, and you kind of touched on it, Chelsea Gray. I'm starting to get to a point, and sometimes, I'm right in my theories and wrong in my theories. I'm starting to get to a point where I'm getting very much Sue Bird final run vibes. Not saying Chelsea Gray is about to retire, not saying she should, or that her gameplay is past its peak and she can't get back up there. I'm saying it from a perspective of she's clearly not 100. Her shot has not dropped since she came back. I think there was one game where she put up a couple, but for the most part, her shot's just not dropping. It did not drop at all during the Olympics. It was very clear during the Olympics. Physically, she was not there. Is she still the floor general, the facilitator? Yes. Are they still going to be a better team with her on the court as the starting point guard? I believe so. I'm going to say that I think they're going to be a little bit hampered by her because of her inability to hit shots. And that's where I'm at right now. And the question I have is, how much of a factor, positive factor, a superstar factor can Tiffany Hayes be? Because that's what it's going to come down to for me, because you're going to need everybody else. If Chelsea Gray is going to be producing 13 assists a game, great. But if she's only producing 4 to 6 points a game, that's where I get concerned. And I'm going to need 10 more points from other players on this roster. And I'm looking to the Tiffany Hayeses, to the Kelsey Plums, to the Jackie Youngs. A'ja Wilson's already, what can you ask for A'ja Wilson, right? She's like averaging like 26 and 16 or something insane like that. Probably even better than that.
27 and 12.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so basically, come on now. What do you expect from her to drop to average 37 and 12? No, that's not realistic. I think we're hitting a point where we need to be honest about Chelsea Gray not being fully healthy, but she's still better at 80%, 70%, 90%, whatever she is, than anything else that you can get in most other point guards in this league. So I guess for you, my question is, is Chelsea Gray's health going to be health or offensive production going to be the deciding factor of this team's championship run?
It's tough because, like you said, I think watching it, it's you probably can't say that she's at 100% health right now, but I think we saw it for, I forget if it was just the first game or second game, first 2 games she was back for Vegas, that Becky Hammon eased her in. She didn't get a lot of minutes, but she started 10 games and the Aces are 8-2 in those games. So yes, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But even if Chelsea Gray is she's averaging 7.3 points per game in the 12 games she's played this year, if she's not providing that scoring power that you expect from her, I think you still have 27 a game from A'ja, 18 from Kelsey Plum, 18 from Jackie Young, and then Tiffany Hayes is right around 9. So I think there's enough around her to make up for that. And I just think, Kelsey Plum said when Chelsea came back, that she was struggling a bit with her role. Should she be a primary initiator? Should she go and get her shot? Should it be a mixture? What and when do you decide to do those things? When do you decide to do something else? So I think Chelsea Gray just puts those questions behind you and helps them play as a more cohesive unit. So it's not a huge concern for me, but I think it's just definitely something to look out for. Overall, I just think you can't replace someone like Chelsea Gray, one of the greatest point guards of all time. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, even though she's not scoring as much as we expect her to, just because of everything else she brings to the team. I think it'll come along eventually, given that she is working her way up to 100% health.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also think, this is a situation where, and maybe I've already said this, but this is a situation where they're not going to be a better team with a different point guard. And you're just going, it's similar to a couple of years ago when Deladon was hurt. And it's this is the bed you have made. You need to ride it out. there isn't another option. We're too far away. We'll talk about other options in a few moments. But quickly, let's touch on Phoenix and what this Becca Allen injury does to the team. And, earlier in the season, we saw what no Becca Allen does to this Phoenix Mercury team. Obviously, they didn't have BG for that period of time. Also, I think it's concerning. But BG, Ka, and DT all coming back from the Olympics. Ka's got to be on top of the world. BG didn't play that crazy much. DT, heck, didn't play at all. She had a hilarious line of, what was it? Someone asked her, hey, now you have more gold medals than Sue Bird this game or something. Are you excited? She's like, yeah, we scored the same amount of points. Didn't even play her. Cheryl Reeve with classic trolling. I'll go first. I think I'm very concerned because I think she brings a defensive element and an offensive scoring element. We know, there's certain players on this roster that go into cold streaks. We also know that this team is kind of riding on Ka's back right now, and they don't have defense. They just don't. And when you lose somebody like Becca Allen, who you could argue is their second or third best defender, that's a big blow, because I've been saying this all season. This Connecticut Sun team defensively is very much reliant on BG as that background defender, but then also very, very reliant on, we have two more good defenders to cover up for the two not so good defenders that are on the court at that time. So they're always just some teams who are more defensive minded. They're putting out players. Hey, as a unit, we're all really good defenders. Maybe this one player struggles at this aspect of defense. We can cover up for them a little bit. Sometimes you have one player who's so good offensively, they're a liability defensively. Diana Taurasi for many years. Now you have multiple players on this roster who are defensive liabilities. How do you cover that up? Has been a struggle, is a nice way of putting it. So, yeah, I've just rambled. What do you think about the Phoenix Mercury?
The interesting thing about the Bec Allen injury, and I mean, I hope she comes back as soon as possible. The team provided an update today. It seems like it's going to be a few weeks and she'll be reevaluated. It doesn't seem like there's much concrete timing, which is kind of concerning. But we were just talking about Connecticut, and I think a lot of what Connecticut has been trying to figure out is trying to cover that loss of Bec Allen and not having her this year. Just a player with her size, her shooting ability, those don't grow on trees. So, I mean, she's huge for this roster. I think they still have a good, 5 when you add Sophie in there. You can input Sophie into the starting lineup. But like you said, defense is still a concern, and they give up close to 86 points a game, which is near the bottom. It's third from last. So that is definitely, the Bec Allen injury is not going to help that by any means. So I really do worry about the depth. I mean, they have some good pieces, Shug Sutton gave some good minutes this year. Natasha Mack has provided some defense off the bench. But I think they're going to need to figure something out just to hopefully add a bit more depth, because, I mean, the injury to Bec Allen really does hurt this team, which is super unfortunate. I'm not going to count out any team that has Kalia Copper, because what she's doing this season is absolutely incredible. But it's definitely going to be tough. But maybe they can, I don't know if there's a trade that they can make or a signing or anything like that, but hopefully they can find a way to add a piece or someone steps up to help provide some impactful minutes that you're going to lose from Bec Allen, which is unfortunately tough to find anywhere in the league.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, let's talk about this. I mean, eyes on the trade deadline. We know it's the W. You don't get the crazy rush to the trade deadline trades that you see in other sports leagues. We talked about it earlier, the Marina Mayberry trade. There were trades. There have been trades historically in the past. Sylvia Fowles was a big one too. There have been really big trades that happen, and there's also been really big mid-season signings. Look, Emma Meesseman could sign somewhere if she wanted to for the rest of the season. Gabby Williams could sign somewhere for the rest of the season. Our very own Rachel Galligan was breaking some news yesterday or the day before, I forget, about that, kind of from Gabby's team's perspective, it sounded like, I'll say. And it was basically saying, like, I'm willing to play. These are the 3 teams that I'm interested in, but I want a commitment of nobody's going to core me, because she wants the freedom to be a free agent this coming year. Would somebody core her? I don't necessarily know. Of the teams reported, only like one of them could even core her as it stands, because somebody else is cored. So that's kind of where the cookie crumbles. I think there are some moves. That ESPN article came out with talks of what would be some trades they would like to see before the deadline. To me, it's basically, can the Aces add another depth piece with some size? Can Seattle find another offensive element? I think their defense is phenomenal. Can they add another offensive element? There just seems like something's off offensively for them. Minnesota, probably, I'm just talking about the top teams, right? Because those are the teams that kind of want to make a push. Connecticut, they've already made that push. Dallas, I think, at this point, we're kind of past that moment. Not Seattle, Indiana, maybe they try and make a push to secure something, to solidify something. There's a lot of teams that I think are actively talking, right? They're actively in discussion about possible moves, but realistically, to make those moves, it's not that easy with how these cap spaces are looking for these teams. Final thought, real quick, if you want to touch on any trade deadline stuff, or if you just want to give me some Olympic reaction.
Yeah, I mean, with the trade deadline, I'm not expecting a super crazy deadline or anything like that, just because of everything you said. But I'm sure we're going to see a lot of these teams at least try to improve or find a move out there. Like, I'm interested to see if the Sky try to move off of Dana Evans, but I don't know if that's even likely, because she's essentially just a rental at this point. But I think if there was like a draft asset out there that a team is willing to give up for her, maybe that's something similar to Aryeh Stevens in LA that was brought up, I think, multiple times in the ESPN article. So interested to see what comes from that, but I'm not necessarily expecting any big moves at the deadline, but I hope I'm wrong, just for the sake of some excitement.
I'm with you on that. All right, let's talk Olympics. Impressive, exciting outing from France. Belgium and Australia really battled out. Just a heartbreaker for Belgium, a team that I think really, really missed Julie Alleman. Was kind of that last piece for that team to really get over the edge. Very exciting for France, because, I'll say this, a lot of people were contacting me worried, what's going on? Why are we losing? Freaking out, because, they don't watch women's basketball, and then they're watching us. And I kept saying to them, like, France has some skill sets, and I just think it was a style of play matchup, and combine that with the USA's struggle shooting. Let's be real. They won the Olympics. They are the gold medal. That shows how much better they are, in my opinion, than the rest of the world, because their three-point shooting was crap. They did absolutely nothing from the three-point line. It was embarrassing. And so now I'm like, okay, you pair that against a French team that has some young players coming up, has some size, has some skill sets that I'm not going to say are on the same level or anywhere near Asia Wilson or Brianna Stewart or Nafisa Collier, but having, a body type that can fit defensively against that and then not need to necessarily provide offensively was a huge benefit for them. Gabby Williams just puts the team on her back. Most exciting loss, right? Most exciting game losing shot, I guess. Made game, whatever, you know what I mean? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's super disappointing for Belgium, but they still had a great tournament. Like, Emma Meesman led the tournament in points per game. Did you see the video of her talking about her name pronunciation?
No.
By the way, she said how her name is actually pronounced as Julie Van Le, I believe, but she was like, in America, they say Julie Van Loo. So Julie Van Le led
Julie Van Le. Let's get it.
I could be wrong. I'd have to double check that pronunciation exactly.
If we have any listeners in Belgium, please alert us. Let us know. Drop it in the comments.
Yeah, but she led the tournament in assists. So, I mean, it's still a great tournament for them. And it was exciting just to watch some players play against like WNBA players that maybe fans who started following more closely this year got to see for the first time. Like there were a bunch of tweets before the Olympics started, like, oh, can't wait to see new W fans find out about Maureen Johannes and everything. And Gabby Williams for that matter too. So that was fun. It was great to see Satu play basketball again. I'm excited to see her come back from Dallas. And there was also some exciting performances from players who aren't necessarily the stars on their teams in the W, but got to showcase it a little more, like Megan Gustafson with Spain and Lee Yuru, who had like crazy showings for China. So that was exciting. And yeah, the gold medal game was, I mean, one of the craziest games of all time. And that final, I mean, hats off to Gabby Williams. Her performance was incredible. And it's, I don't know, like, I'm wondering if clearly that final shot is going to be what will be remembered, but is that what Gabby Williams wants to be remembered? Because she just, you could tell she like looked back and realized it was a 2 and it didn't tie the game. But I didn't even think they were going to get a good look off, and they found a way to do it. Unfortunately, it just wasn't beyond the 3-point line. So great tournament. Happy Team USA was able to continue their streak. Happy Diana Taurasi was able to get her 6th gold medal. And yeah, I'm excited to see if they eventually tie the badminton record or whatever it is.
It's not just it's a record set in badminton, but it's a universal Olympic record. Okay, Blake. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't even put that on her. I think the pass came in late.
Yeah.
And she was already in motion. Now I do give her whatever for, trying to attack past the 3-point line. She should have been like 5 feet behind that. That said, like, she does it, probably doesn't go in if she's a step back. Mm-hmm. That's how much, can change. Yeah, that stinks. I mean, I think back to Teresa Weatherspoon, who is most famous for making a shot in the WNBA finals in a series they lost. Do you really want to be known for that? Now, in that case, at least you can look back and say, I made that game-winning half-court heave in the finals to win the game. And this one, you don't have that. It's a shame and it stinks. We went long. I apologize to anyone whose ears are complaining. No, I mean, whatever.
This was great.
I loved it. You know how we like to end it. Blake, give me your goat.
Swin cash. Bring back the shock.